Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to the triumphant return of my Krusty Comics series. I got a lot of feedback recently about bringing the series back, and I'm glad to say it's back to stay. So without any further ado, let's take a look at today's comic featuring the Spectre. The Spectre is a former angel named Aztar who functions by using a mortal person as a host. He is most commonly referred to as God's Wrath or God's Vengeance, and his powers are near limitless and only comparable to other celestial beings like Eternity and the Living Tribunal. Some of his most impressive feats were the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, as well as the 10 plagues visited on Egypt and splitting the Red Sea. There have been many versions of the Spectre over the years and many human hosts. Since compassion and redemption cannot walk the earth at the same time as what the Spectre represents, wrath and vengeance, he was cast in limbo by the presence, i.e. God, and forced to have a human soul to bond to in order to walk the earth. The version of the Spectre I'm going to be taking a look at today is his original human host form, Jim Corrigan. Jim Corrigan was a New York City cop who was killed by mobsters Gats Benson and Louis Snipe. Jim was shoved into a barrel filled with cement, where he was then thrown into the river, where he later choked on liquid cement and died. Corrigan, unable to come to terms with his death while the people who killed him remained free, said, "I have seen damn little of God's justice. Mine I know exists." God decided to have Corrigan merge with the Spectre entity and become the newest incarnation of the Spirit of Vengeance. Now that you know the backstory behind the Spectre, let's take a look at today's comic, The Spectre number 2, Die, Spectre, Again and Again. We first see a stranger walking down the street in Gateway City on a seemingly silent night until a thug pops out from around a dark corner telling him to hand over his wallet or he'll shoot. But he has no gun. "No gun," says the gangster. Presto! With a click of a switch, he activates a spring-loaded mechanism that makes the gun appear like magic. But the unwary pedestrian is even faster than the thug and knocks him out cold before he can shoot and grabs the gun from his hand, prepared to shoot him. Suddenly there is a bright burst of light, and before the man can shoot, he is knocked down. But by whom? A stranger with no face appears seemingly out of nowhere and calls out to the once nameless thug, Dirk Raleigh. He explains to him because of his emotional state, his ethereal soul was unbound from his body, creating his evil half. His demonic double tells him he is off to Arkham to gather strength, but they will meet again soon. Next we see Jim Corrigan at the scene of a puzzling bank robbery, where all of the money and gems have been stolen without the vault doors ever being opened. Fatigued by this brainbuster of a case, Jim decides to head home to plan an evening out with his girlfriend Mona. Before he gets the chance, however, his spirit half, the Spectre, returns home from his rounds to rest and bond his soul back to Jim's host body. Jim complains and tells him how he has a date with Mona, so the Spectre replies that he will leave Jim alone for the night once he has recharged. We now see Jim out with Mona as he thinks to himself he should have told his other half about the impossible crimes case, but realizes he'll find out soon enough since they share the same body. Later on, Mona and Jim encounter the entertainment for the evening, none other than Dirk Raleigh, Master Magician. The Spectre senses the crimes Jim mentioned had to have been committed by a spirit creature and decides to go back to the crime scenes looking for clues. Back at the vault, he senses the trail left behind by the spirit, but the evil energies are too much for him and begin to tear him apart. The Spectre tears himself free with a burst of energy to go and inspect the other crime scene at the Soam's mansion. He senses the box where the jewels were looted from, that the same energy signature he felt before is also coming from the box. The demon must be near. The trail leads him to a museum where he encounters a magician who looks exactly like the one Jim and Mona met earlier, apparently pilfering paintings. He warns the Spectre not to intervene, and he won't harm him. He quickly attacks the Spectre with his cape imbued by the dark energies he absorbed from Arkham. The Spectre quickly rebounds as the magician pulls out more parlor tricks in the form of a growing, giant-sized rabbit from a hat and a deadly bouquet of flowers from up his sleeve. Next, the magician quickly deals the Spectre a bad hand by shooting a deck of cards at him that not only turn giant-sized, but also bring the jacks, kings, and queens to life with deadly effect. Quickly realizing that the cards are affected by wind, the Spectre conjures up a gale-sized storm to cause the cards to crash into one another. Still rattled with psychic fatigue, the Spectre chases after the escaping would-be magician thief and delivers a right hook to his jaw for his troubles. Not to be outdone, the magician conjures up a stream of slithering silk sashes from his sleeves to entangle and strangle the very life out of our hero. With only his feet free, he stomps the floor to produce a spirit flame to burn his bindings. But by the time he frees himself, the magician has performed a disappearing act of his own and vanished with the loot. Later, back at Jim's apartment, our ghostly detective describes what happened to him later on that night, and that the criminal Jim is looking for is none other than Dirk Raleigh, the magician. Jim can't believe it, as he says Dirk was performing magic tricks for them all night, but the Spectre quickly explains it was Dirk's etheric body what committed the crimes. A few days later, as Jim is getting ready to leave for work, at the police headquarters, he gets a call from Mona asking about when they were going to get together again. He had no interest in the charity dinner Mona mentions until she tells him about the guest of honor, Dirk Raleigh, the magician. Meanwhile, at the dinner, Dirk explains on his double making an appearance to create an alibi for him. All the while, the Spectre speeds towards an energy signal at a jewelry store at the west end of Gateway City. Back at the charity dinner, Jim's other half tells him to get ready as they both have to hit their targets at the same time. Jim gets up to strike the magician and causes a scene as he lunges forward, but his punch misses its target. Shocked, Dirk has Jim restrained and threatens to press charges for this unwarranted attack. We see back on the other side of town, however, that the Spectre's punch did indeed hit its intended target, Dirk Raleigh's etheric double. He quickly throws a flying carp at the Spectre's way, sapping his strength with every hit. He wonders how much longer he can hold out. Seizing the advantage, the demon magician pulls a large red gem from off his turban, the Ruby of Thultum he acquired in Arkham Town. Using its rays to shrink the Spectre down to size, he pulls him into the Ruby to be imprisoned for eternity with its powers over time and space. Afterwards, he retreats back to Arkham to renew his psychic energies after his draining encounter with the Spectre. While the demon recharges his psychic powers back in Arkham, the Spectre is tasked with finding a means of escape from his glittering prison. Using all his strength, he rolls the ruby around on the floor in hopes of shattering it until he sees a diamond that had fallen. Drained, he uses what little strength he has left to thrust himself into the diamond and scratch the ruby's surface and break himself free. Afterwards, hearing of Jim's unprovoked attack against the magician, he is forced to turn in his badge and is suspended. He decides to still go sleuthing on his own as he sees the magician enter an amusement park and senses something is not quite right. Dirk keeps looking at his watch suspiciously as he boards an airplane ride, with Jim hot on his heels, but is stopped by the operator telling him the ride is full and he'll have to wait. Chasing after his mysterious suspect, he's frustrated as he can't close any further on him to apprehend him, as the Spectre also draws near to Dirk's etheric double. Seeing the planes are too high to reach, Jim remembers he has an old friend who works at the park operating the human cannonball ride, and reluctant as he is, out of friendship, he loads Jim into the cannon and launches him directly at the now frenzied flyer as both the Spectre and Jim synchronize their punches with their respective targets. It almost looks like Jim will miss until the last moment when, sock, both men connect at the same time. The Spectre takes the etheric double back to Arkham to imprison him by using the energies of good to combat the evil that the double fed upon. He'll be cut off from his powers and left harmless and powerless. Meanwhile, downtown at police headquarters, Dirk is brought in for questioning, with the commissioner demanding Jim produce proof of his guilt. The Spectre quickly appears on Jim's behalf, announcing he has proof showing all the loot that Dirk's etheric self stole hidden in Arkham. Still unconvinced, the commissioner notes that Dirk didn't force his etheric self to commit those crimes. The Spectre announces he came prepared for that too, and introduces Hubert Desmond, the first hold-up victim of Dirk's etheric double, who we saw long ago on page 1, who's been in the hospital ever since he was robbed and is prepared to testify what Dirk Raleigh robbed him. Dirk denies the man's claim, but he tells him that he's wearing his watch. He says there's nothing on the watch to prove it belongs to the man, and for him to prove that it's really his. Hubert asks the commissioner to open the back of the watch to reveal it has his name, Hubert Desmond, engraved on it, and that's enough proof for the commissioner to put Dirk away. The commissioner goes on to restore Jim's rank and thank him for his excellent police work, Both Jim and the Spectre are quite relieved that all their cases aren't as tough as this one. Alright guys, well, thanks for taking a look today with me at the history of DC's The Spectre, and if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I want to say thank you for your continued support of this series and my channel, and if you like this video, please remember to share it with other people who you think will like it as well. Some sad news, unfortunately. As I was in the process of making and editing this video, I heard of the passing of Stan Lee, a comic book legend and god in the pop culture and comic industry at 95. He was one of those men who truly could live up to the term legend and was a huge part of my childhood, inspiring untold parts of my imagination. So it saddens me deeply to hear of Stan Lee's passing at 95. An Excelsior, Stan. Excelsior indeed. Until next time, comic book friends, take care. Hey guys, if you liked the video that you just watched, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, and you can follow me at Facebook at King of Retro or Twitter at #8ByteBrian. See you next time!